And art has the way of doing that. Art has a way of taking you through an experience or an emotion over and over and over again, so that you see it in different sides and different angles. That at the end of the day, it really equips you with that understanding that if I focus, if I look towards the positive, if I make a contribution to my process every day, something good comes out of it. And it's such an important message that on an academic level, it might just not sound amazing, but on a community level, where people are, where they wake up in the morning and they say, there's nothing for me to do. Such interventions in terms of messages of hope, in terms of messages of color and positive thinking, is a difference between somebody saying, I'm giving up, and somebody saying, hey, let me try it again today. And for us, that's what art mainly is about.
It's so lovely to meet you here on Zoom, Khuba.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for inviting me to this conversation.
It's
so looking forward to it.
Yeah, you're doing such great work, and I think it's so important that you tell about what you're doing and tell your story.
Yes, the work that I do, I think it's quite necessary work for where we are today as a country, as a culture, and as part of this glorious humanity we are part of. And it's just my contribution here and there to add maybe a bit of color, a bit of flavor, a bit of memory, and a bit of excitement in the lives of the people who ever engage with my work, both as performers or as audiences. People who get to read my stories, people who get to listen to my short stories, maybe on radio, people who get to see the films that I make, people who get to see the theater shows that I produce, and some of which that I perform in. So I think it's just in a greater scheme of things, just to add a little bit of color here and there.
Amazing.
Just to live. Yeah.
But you are based in Howick.
Yes.
Am I right? Mm.
I'm based in Howick. Originally, I am from a place called the Northwest. Outside, I was born in a place called Makhubalo, outside of Mahikeng, which is the capital city of the Northwest province of South Africa. Okay. So I grew up in a place called Khalexpan, and then I went to school in Mahikeng at Botswana High, and then I went to West University. And then I worked for a long period as a TV director for the South African Broadcasting Corporation. And then I wrote some films for a channel called ETV in South Africa. And then from there, I decided to go back to my first love, which is theater and writing.
But it's quite a distance from Mahikeng to Howick.
Yes, it's a long story, but my wife is from KZN, so
I see. Okay,
that's where
so she won. She won the argument.
Yeah, she won the argument, and this place is also so green as compared to where I grew up. So it was just a different texture to my life. I've spent time in Mahikeng, which is much more arid and quite dry. So I felt that maybe the latter part of my years, I should explore a place that's green. And Howick is all that. Howick has got waterfalls, it's got amazing sceneries. We have a stable water base here. We have the culture, there's always culture bubbling under, whether it's Zulu culture or the Soto migrant labor culture, or indeed various European cultures that come to our town, coming to seek a home here too. We've got quite a huge group of people that come from other countries who come here because
Amazing.
Howick is quite a nice retirement place. So we are quite blessed with various cultures coming to our town and being part of the Midlands broadly.
And yeah, I talked to Matt Hogarty,
Yes,
about the wonderful work you're doing in Howick, and it was him who got me in contact with you. And it's amazing how everybody in the arts come together and work together and uplift Howick, and uplift the community there.
I think we have that. I think Howick is blessed with a sense of we all have an understanding that we are painting the same history. We are telling the same story for our future generations. If that story is hope, it has to be told by us. If that story is a new vision for the way we relate, it has to be told by us. So we understand that responsibility. And the collaborations here, I think Howick is so blessed with, and the entire Midlands, the KZN Midlands, with a sense of collaboration. And it is in those collaborations that we truly find each other, where we truly find a sense of, coming together and understanding how we can look at certain problems together for the benefit of everyone. So I think we've been blessed with this moment, particularly given that, you see elsewhere people not finding each other, people always having issues, or people resorting to other forms of expression of their frustrations. But in the KZN Midlands, I think that we've developed quite a language of coming together and saying, how do we speak about this in a manner that takes us forward? It's not like we don't have issues. It's not like we don't have problems, but there's a general understanding that we have to find a smoother way of working hand in hand moving forward. We don't scream at each other. And art is quite an important place that shows that different colors, textures can coexist. And it's important for us because then it assists us to have an understanding that in that coexistence, we cannot be screaming at each other. We can really be like a big orchestra. Everybody's got a part to play. Whether you are the smallest of instruments or you are the biggest harp or whatever, we all have to make the sound and the song of our time together. And that's where art is important.
Absolutely. And you're talking about orchestra. I spoke to a conductor of a youth orchestra a few years ago, and he was saying to me also this, where even in an orchestra where all the instruments come together, it's also people from different backgrounds, different, social groups coming together and making music and being one in that moment, and that's what's happening in Howick. And like you say,
yes, it is. And
these
also
types of projects.
Yeah, it's also, there's a big understanding also that people can look to the arts to find their own inspiration. Because South Africa, our country is so, it's filled with opportunities lost. We've got a lot of opportunities lost where something amazing was started but was not completed. And you see a new spirit emerging from the young people. For example, I do work where I teach young people how to write short stories. And then every 2 to 3 years, we publish them in a book that we give to the schools and to the libraries. And they'll get to be part of something that can always remind them of their excellence, something that can always teach them that you start somewhere and then you have to finish it. There's a problem that we have in South Africa where things get started and they're not finished. So our young people, through the arts, they get to learn how to, start something, how to be part of a process of engagement, of difference, of similarities, of really getting advice and an upliftment from others, because that's what we need to actually build communities. And in Howick, we found that. We found that in our own special little way. And we are glad that we're starting to get that recognition, not just for us to say, no, we are good at this, but also to be an example of other communities. We need to get young people to see beauty in their communities. We need to get them to see how they can raise their voice and speak on issues without having to resort to violent protest, for example. We have to get them to see them start things and finish them alongside others, and build on what they did yesterday, and build on the passion of the community, shape it into something positive. And that's what we're doing. And I think somehow history or culture has driven this responsibility largely towards communities like Howick to show the way in South Africa. And I'm glad that we are part of it. It's Absolutely. An amazing space where we are, and it's an amazing time. I was just talking to another colleague of mine. We're discussing a project together, and we say, we are that generation that went through COVID, and whatever that we do, whatever that we see, whatever that's possible that we're cultivating today, it's in that spirit of people that have been through something so huge, but we were never defeated. So it's important for us to be doing what we do here. I also do a lot of, I'm totally against violent protest. So part of what I do is that I go to schools and I talk to young people about that, about why they cannot be the tools of violent protest, and how by banning something you don't necessarily plant anything. I do quite a lot of that across South Africa. I do get interviews from different radio stations, and because I can speak most of the South African languages, I'm able to converse with people at different levels, at different spaces and language groups. And all of this comes from the work that I do as an artist. So I'm also humbled by the work that I do, because it gives me such a voice in a country that needs such a diversity of voices now, to create something to bubble and just thrust us forward in a meaningful way. So the art is that for us. We do plays with schools. We're currently doing 2 musicals with a school. But these are the young people that we really want to get in the spirit of positive thinking, of seeing what they have already and what they can build on, and really to contribute to the culture that says, hey man, we are like brothers and sisters. Yes. We share a humanity, and we're excited about that.
And also giving children a value and a purpose. I think it's so important, because the moment you do that, or the moment they have a purpose, it will give them something to work for and take them off the streets, and give them also a way of contributing to society.
Yes, because we say in a country that has a lot of unemployment, for example, and I was talking to I just had a rehearsal at Dragondale School of Arts with the learners. They were creating a musical, a fashion musical, and I was talking to them about the distance, about how thin a line is from them being learners and them being unemployed people, because there's so much unemployment. The cost of education in our country is so high, and although there are meaningful interventions by government, but not everybody gets caught in that net. So there's an important aspect of life that they need to learn and embrace, is to actually see positive solutions as way out. And art has the way of doing that. Art has a way of taking you through an experience or an emotion over and over and over again, so that you see it in different sides and different angles. That at the end of the day, it really equips you with that understanding that if I focus, if I look towards the positive, if I make a contribution to my process every day, something good comes out of it. And it's such an important message that on on an academic level, it might just not sound amazing, but on a community level, where people are, where they wake up in the morning and they say, "There's nothing for me to do." Such interventions, in terms of messages of hope, in terms of messages of color, and positive thinking, is a difference between somebody saying, "I'm giving up," and somebody saying, "Hey, let me try it again today."
Exactly.
And for us, that's what art mainly is about.
And it's so true. And you know, just recently I spoke to a hair and makeup artist in Kenya, and she was saying how something as simple as makeup, giving makeup tutorials, give women the opportunity to earn money, to be financially independent. And you see that in all forms of art. I mean, if I talk, you think in also, I think in can't remember if it was also Kenya or Nigeria, where they have dancers teaching other children to dance, and then they earn money through performing, you know. And gone are the days that we say only maths and science will bring you an income.
Yes.
You know, it's art. It's so in every form of it, you can make a living and
out of it.
And make a living out of it. And also, the moment we start teaching children different forms of art, there's also a different appreciation, you know. Then they start thinking, I want to pay for this painting, or I want to pay for this performance, because I understand what the work is behind it. And I think that is also in part important.
And I also love, like you were talking about makeup, the transformative power of somebody being able to understand that I can use makeup to make something better, look better, feel better. It goes with the stories as well. The transformative aspects of art that says, here it starts with this person having this problem. At the end of the day, they've solved this problem. Because we take it for granted that people know how to handle some of the complexities or challenges of their lives. And on a community level, we see it each and every day, that people actually still require a sense of upliftment that will help them understand that the transformation of their lives is in their hands, and they're not entirely. And that's where I feel that art makes an intervention. We still have our industry in South Africa is still so. I think we've done a lot. We've done amazing work, but in terms of the complexity of the industry-wide complexities, like, for example, I was talking to somebody yesterday. We haven't touched merchandising in South Africa. We haven't. I mean, we have amazing history like Shaka Zulu and all of those people, and they still come second to the ideas like Mickey Mouse and them, or Superman and Spider-Man. We still have such a huge part of what the arts industry can create in terms of jobs. We haven't touched this. We haven't scratched the surface. We're still on the level where we're talking story, but there are so many other industries that can spring out of it and support it. Imagine if we were to, for example, in Howick, we make do with venues that do different. Some of them are accommodation venues, some of them are wine estates, and some of them are just. But we find these spaces. We don't have much. Like a bigger community theater space, like in other countries. We have schools like Michael House that have got an amazing theater there. We've got, so it's still in the schools, but we don't have a community theater that could be creating and rejuvenating and making sure that the arts, you know, like the various aspects of the arts can really come and grow here. We need people who can think and say, hey, if we put a good show, people can come from different areas, and it's tourism. We need people who can do merchandising and create those textile jobs where they make the T-shirt of the shows that we're doing. We need people who can create spin-offs of the work that we do and put it in books that can go and across the world. We are still so unprocessed in terms of a resource as the arts in South Africa. We haven't scratched the surface. And I think that's where the passion that we have comes from, where we know that things could become so better and things can change and contribute so much to the lives of others. That's what personally inspires me, and I see it in the other people that I work with as well. They see this potential, they see this space of growth, and we love it. We love it. We love that about our home. We love to call this place home because it comes with all of those kinds of things, those opportunities and everything else.
And I mean, Howick is a little bit, it's not one of the big cities. I mean, it's a small town. So it's wonderful that you do all these things there, because that would also take people to a different area of South Africa and see the real people. Because I always think you don't always see the real people if you go to all the normal touristy things, you know. You have to go to the countryside of South Africa to see what you are talking about, you know, to see the real life of South Africa.
I think so too. I believe South Africa was robbed so much. We used to have in South Africa migration labor, you know, a migration labor economy where the best of every place would be channeled towards the city to either go to a mine or something like that. And with the arts is the first place where we can start doing a reverse of that, where we can now start saying to people, if you are talented, you can stay here, and together we can see how we can grow this talent for the benefit of people here, so that whatever that you do as a value, it goes into a value chain right here. If I host an event and that event is a show, and before that show, people can buy food and all of that, and it's locally sourced food, it's locally sourced labor, it's locally, you know, it's whatever that we make goes into the coffers of the municipality that we all benefit from. That reality now, that we can be the drivers of change where we are, I think it has dawned on us, and it's showing off the bright colors, the bright textures of South Africa. Because now I can go to a place like Fixburg and I get a sense of Fixburg. I don't have to go to Joburg and see Fixburg. I can go to Fixburg and find some activity and cultural activities that are taking place there. Even within the Midlands, you come to Howick, you get a different experience. You go to Pietermaritzburg, you go to places like New Hanover, things are starting to bubble. And it's such an amazing time to be here because it's proudly local, and we have this word called lekker. It's local and lekker, where you can get the experience of what it is that people do when they are at home. Because I think the best expressions that we do, the best colors we paint, the best stories we tell them when we are at home. And I'm here. I wake up here to the mist of the hills and the greens that go to the end of where my eyes can see. And that's what inspires me. And I can still share that with people, that I can show all these things that inspire me right here and right now. So it's such an important place to be, because I can do my work where I stay. And it's just an amazing experience being here.
Well, it's just the past few months, I've been getting messages from young artists, really, you know, still at college, from KwaZulu-Natal, from near Durban, where there are young art students, you know, and wanting to talk about their work. And what I find so amazing is that they tell stories about rural South Africa, you know, from where they come from the villages they come from, and tell the stories about that. And just by me interviewing them, I've learned, and I'm a South African myself, I've learned so much that I didn't know, you know, that I didn't realize about them. And what I found so wonderful is that they're so proud of their community, so proud of where they come from rural South Africa, and showing that. And yeah, that's it's so encouraging to think young people are now more inclined to uplift themselves and to use art to do that and use art to tell their story?
Yeah, I think so. I think the South African story is changing. It's a story of us. It's a story of people, waking up and embracing, where we are. And even the story of the rural story of South Africa is coming out in different textures. Because you remember, sometimes when we think of rural areas, we think of them as areas stuck in a certain period or in a beauty that relates to nostalgia. But there's also amazing things that are being achieved by people in their daily lives in terms of creating a new space for their growth. You should see the films that are coming out from those areas. You should see some of the content they're making for social media, how they really have found a niche in their own spaces, and that's what South Africa needs. South Africa will never reach its potential if that rainbow is dominated by certain narratives. We are not that kind of country. We can never ever survive that. We can never survive a dominant way of telling because we are so varied. And I think more and more focus should go towards diversifying to encourage people to see the other spaces. Our history needs now to be broken into it not just being political history, which we should not just learn about with the Mandelas, and we've got an amazing array of species in terms of plants, in terms of cultures, what we do, there's so many things that we can do that we can share as a story to the world. And I think rural areas, their stories have been so far because most of the broadcasters in the cities and the dominant stories of the past decades have always been stories from an urban point of view. But now we've got young people who are translating their own lives and own experiences and sharing them. And I think we're going to see a whole lot more coming from South Africa in terms of amazing work, stories coming out, the textures coming out, and the world, I think, should really look at South Africa because amazing work is coming.
I was just telling somebody the other day that I live across the road from the music university in Vienna, and I see the students walk here with their instruments, and I know it's not easy to get into this university, and it's a different world to it's parents who have maybe financial means to get their children there. It's a lot of money to just buy the instruments. But then I spoke to somebody a few days ago, a young artist in Durban area, and he started drawing in the sand with a stick. And from there on, he wasn't good in football, so he drew in the sand with a stick. And then from there on, he started doing art and started doing more. And it's these two different worlds, but the story of this boy doing that and then developing, not saying, well, I don't have paper and a pen or I don't have paint, but then pursuing and until he gets to the college or the university where he can actually study and want to know more and want to do more. And this is what you're talking about. This is what South Africa has to offer. These stories,
Exactly.
Drawing in the sand and then having these paintings later in life. That's the determination and that's inner strength, that push you towards that.
And it's across the board, whether it is the fine artists, it's musicians, it's theater people. There's a lot of, when somebody says they're an artist in South Africa, in across the country, you have to automatically assume that this person is resilient because it requires a lot of that. Firstly, like for example, there are no real platforms where arts gets promoted. The last time we were talking about the news, but the news bulletin always has sports at the end, like 3 minutes of sports. And there's never like, even if they could have like once a week, 3 minutes of what's happening in the arts world, like our national broadcaster, there's no real space for showcasing the art. And,
or it's sometimes an international artist who comes to South Africa and then they talk to them and you think, but what about the South African
What about
artists?
the guys that are here? And we're not looking for massive spotlight above everyone else. It's just that. So you have to really find this industry, really struggle with your passion because there's no money. In your households, you grow up in a space where everybody says this is not actually a job because they don't see it anywhere being a job. So by the time you become like you get to your 20s or your 25s or even your 18, when you turn 18, you've already had so much negativity about being an artist that you really have to be so resilient. And I do love going out there. We've just completed a 10 schools tour where I was performing a show called Number 6, and it was seen by 4,000 plus learners in schools. And they had to see me to believe that really here's somebody who's doing something, and they've chosen art as a career. And they could see my impact, the impact of my story on them and their peers. And so they saw so much value in what I was doing because they never see it anyway.
I just had a fantastic performance of Number 6 at Etham College in Hilton. Loved it. We are on the road officially, just of our first performance today, and the learners and the staff loved it, and we are so excited. To be bringing this message to schools, and we are grateful to Be Secure Security Systems for allowing us and giving us the support to do this. Siyabonga for your support, for your sponsorship. Thank you, Etham College. Lovely school. We appreciate the welcome and how warm the school is. Siyabonga kakhulu. Thank you.
So it's such an important thing to recognize that when you're thinking of South African art, the concept of resilience is a big part of it. And at most of the time, these artists are dealing with issues that are somebody else's responsibility. For example, my show, luckily a security company came on board to sponsor it. It talks about home security. That in another world, somebody else could be saying, no, but that's the police. The police should be dealing with that. Not an artist. But an artist will take over on that message, and they will look for a way to present it in such a way that it sticks and it drives change in the people that see the story.
How weak to know, to reach to that bag, as something, but I don't know, I'm the one to pay.
Functionality of it is so high and so underappreciated, and the people that are trying to fight that. I go to theater festivals. They invite me to come judge the shows and adjudicate and all of that, and I see these young people dealing with social ills like alcohol, teenage pregnancy, HIV/AIDS, massive problems that we have as a nation, and the input of everyone else And unfortunately, people that should be leading in driving that change is minimal half of the time. And you see these kids trying to deal with it and trying to fight it and trying to raise awareness in their own communities. I think the resilience of the arts in South Africa is one of those things that I'm so happy I'm part of. I'm part of that resilient culture where I've produced more than 15 theater shows, and one of them performed in Russia last year from nothing. And I'm not saying that we should always produce from nothing. I'm just saying that we are South African artists. We are a resilient bunch of people, and I think it's a big part of the rainbow. We paint that rainbow every day. Every time somebody says we are a rainbow nation, on that rainbow is the artist with a brush, painting it, saying, understand each other, saying, let's talk peace, saying, let's look at how our children grow up in our homes, saying, we cannot lose hope, saying, hey, let's dance a bit, saying, let's see this color, like you've seen ugliness, it's enough, see beauty now. It's the artist who's doing that. And I'm proud to be part of that tribe. And I represent that tribe with all my passion anywhere I go. And I'm so happy that I do get opportunities like this to speak, not on behalf of them, because they are speaking every day. I can just bring together what resonates from my brothers and sisters in the arts.
But I do admire you so much for the work that you do in the schools, because the videos that you sent me, it's amazing. And you know how informative it, or I say informative, but the thing is the children get so excited, with these performances that you do.
Yeah, and also the show that I did, all my props are in a small bag. So the question of resources as well, because it's such an obstacle for many of them. There will be voices that say, no, but if you go like the poor theater way, if you go, like you do these shows on the rough, you're taking away from the spirit of what could be an industrial theatrical movement. But at the same time, you have kids who see money being an obstacle to everything in their lives. Money is an obstacle for them having good food. It's an obstacle for them to having transport to school. It's an obstacle for them having what the kid next door, new clothes. It's an obstacle to everything. And if you come to them and you show them that you can find joy, you can bring joy to others using as the props that fit in a bag, in a small bag, with no specialized theatrical equipment, a show that can travel from here to there. We're still looking for another sponsor to take us to other schools. Because that's what we want to show. We want to show these kids that we cannot just say to you, you are the future of our country without giving you some of the skills and some of the hope and some of the abilities and possibilities that you'll need to drive that hope. At this point, I think that as a nation, we tend to set up these kids for failure. We keep on telling them that they're the future of this country, but we do not walk with them. At times we scream down at them. At times we tell them how bad they are. I mean, we're coming from schools. One of the schools, I had 1,000 kids in the hall. They had to bring their chairs from their classrooms because there's no specific chairs for the hall. The logistics of that took 30 minutes. But when they got there, some of them, when the play started, they were making noise because they don't know it. And I was telling the teachers, you cannot be angry with the kids if they start acting in a manner that's not, what people do in the theater. They haven't seen this. So if I come back here, there'll be a better behavior from them. It's just that. Our children are under so much shade of blame. And there's not enough examples. And at times, you have to really throw yourself out there as an example. The show that I do, most of the shows that I perform as one-man shows, I always take on the character of a man trying to make a decision. And because most of the time, our children, they don't have father figures in their homes. They don't see a man, particularly a black person, a black man going through decision-making. Is this right? Is this wrong? And them struggling with making that decision. And it's important for boys to see that. It's important for boys to see, I cannot be sure about this. What do I do? It's important for you to struggle with the question of what's good and what's bad. It's important for you to always keep on thinking, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing the wrong thing? And these shows, for me, I think they do that, especially for the boy child. That sense that they see this man here, they think this is probably embarrassing. I wouldn't. They say that this is embarrassing. I wouldn't do that. But then they see you perform, and they see the joy that you get from it, and they say, "Hey, that's freedom for you."
With my desk got paid. I got to pay payment. Where that's happening. Thank you. Be secure. We are now in the it's not
And then this is what we need as a country, situations where men and women can go back to kids and say, hey, we're giving you the responsibility of taking care of our future, but at the same time, here's an option. We need to always create options for kids. And I see that us doing that every day. Options. The other industries are shutting down. Things are not going right for most of the big businesses. We thought and hope that our kids will employ the kids of the future. But with arts, we create options every day. And that's the story of South Africa. Options being created every day. Alternatives, hope being created every day by people doing something from nothing.
But Khuba, what inspired you to go to schools?
What inspired me to go to schools? I grew up in a place in Khalespan. Khalespan we had about 30 houses where I grew up. So I had about 7 friends. We couldn't even make a soccer team. And you feel the isolation. You feel the isolation as a child. And I've always seen through my work of encouraging and discouraging people from doing violent protests, how young people are used in squabbles, in political squabbles, social squabbles.
Yeah.
You see a young person running in front. It's like, but how does this kid know about the IDP or whatever? They don't know about why is that 9-year-old? I mean, in South Africa, we've got a classic case of a child who was killed in the June 16 protest at Tapitas. It's still continuing, where people of able mind and now we've got free speech and everything. People are still using young people in schools to advance their issues. So a child deserves to have the fullest expression. A child deserves to have the most significant inspiration they can get. A child deserves to be put in a space where they can show appreciation and appreciate others and also get appreciated. So that's what always takes me to schools, because it is at schools where you tend to shape the conversation of society. You go to a school and you say to them, you have 1,000 of you here. How many of you have thought about home security? They are the active processors as well of information today. If you tell something to a kid, most of them stay with their grandmothers. And so these are the information carriers of their homes as well. So any intervention that you want to make, the best way to do it, it will be to tell a kid and say, please, when you get home, share it with your parent, share it with your mother, share it with your grandmother, share it with your friends. So children are a resource that our humanity has. Broadly, children are everywhere. That's why we should always inspire children without borders. Wherever a child is, inspire the child, because they are a resource of humanity. These are people that we're sharing our stories with. They're going to be the torchbearers of what we're doing today. In the next 50 years, these children will be telling the story of what we did here today. And it's important for that. And it's important to supplement South African education as well with things that are practical on a social level, they are impactful. I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday, and we were talking about how some of the soft skills that children need to be better citizens cannot be found in school curricula, because it's tied up. There's not enough time in schools for that. So wherever we can bring like the soft skills or the emphasis, like this project that I do, the writing project, the emphasis there, people tell me, no, you're creating writers, and I'm saying to them, I'm creating young people who will understand that they have to start something, get criticism, go through it, and finish it, and have something that they will hold up in the future. Even if they think of doing something wrong, they will know at one point I was an excellent child. And this is how we're going to do it. I was impacted when I was in school. The people came to our school and they did a stage play, and I wondered, why did they do that? How did they do that? And that's where the inspiration comes. Schools should be inspiration hubs where anyone with resources, with a new thinking, with a new ability, with new hope, can go and plant. Schools are not instruments of government to remove children from our families so that they don't give us problems in the afternoon. And unfortunately, that's how at times we treat the schools. Go to school, man, and give us a break. Schools are places where you and me should feel it's like a garden. It's a garden that all of us can water, and it's there. These kids come there all the time, and they will not have money to come see my shows if we take them far. Even if we take them to a festival somewhere, they will not be able to come see my show, because it's not just for them to pay, it's for them to get the clothes, get on the tip, because they want to look good, get on to transport to come, the food they're going to eat there. So you cannot tell a kid that they have to spend 200 rand to see a show, Makhubalo Ikaneng show. So Makhubalo will go to the schools, because Makhubalo knows that if 1,000 kids have seen my show, at least 100 families that evening are having a conversation about what I feel passionate about.
Great town, great town, great town, great town, great town, great town.
That is so true. And it's actually, now that you talk about the schools being an informational hub, or this, it should be a creative hub, that many of these young artists that I spoke to in Durban area tell me that there's no art subjects in school.
Yes.
Isn't it shocking?
It's at times they will have, but it's very casual. It's very, it's an industry that exists without any real push, without any real pillars. The art industry in South Africa, there's no real pillars to it. Like there's no real things that are supposed to hold it up. It's just skating in the air, and at times the only place where we can actually anchor it is at schools. It's when you start a project and you say, I'm going to go to school, because then you're relying on the administration of the school. You're relying on the most of the schools in South Africa now. They've got a feeding scheme So you're not taking a kid and not being able to feed them. They're already coming to school using transport paid by their parents or provided by the government. So you are just adding more value to a resource that already exists. And you are not asking them to come to you on Saturday to pay transport and all of that, and money to rent a venue and all of that. The venues are there. The schools have venues. The schools have got children. The schools have got a whole lot of systems already in place that assist, that could assist our art. We just need to be able to coordinate it. And a lot of artists are doing it well. I know of a friend of mine who does shows with children at a disabled school, as a school with children living with disabilities. Because alternatively, if he thought he was going to go find them one by one in their homes, it would be impossible. There will be mobility challenges. How will they get there and all of those things? But the school has already have all of those things in place. All that we can come to now is add value. And the schools are an important hub in South Africa. There are children who don't have anyone to stay with at home when parents go to work. And all these things that schools help. And by going and reinforcing the ability of schools to present some art, it's important. I think we should be thinking deeper about how art education can be included more in a meaningful way in schools, or else we will always have the ones who could, because resilience is important, but at the same time, not everyone will have it. Especially, you'll see that with the arts, most of the time it gets skewed towards boys. And the reason is girls in South Africa, they're always, and as we see it in our project, girls, they have a responsibility at their homes. They come back from home, they have to wash their dishes, they have to wash the clothes of everyone, they have to start cooking, they have to do their own homework, they have to do. So for that child, hoping and thinking that they'll pick up art anywhere else except at the school, it's not going to happen. That child has, the girl child in South Africa is so overwhelmed. It's at times with our project, we even tell the parents, during this period, please, they must not wash their dishes. They must not do all of it. They must not clean the houses. Don't make them do those things. They're going through a process that requires them to work and also to be able to rest. So girl children, particularly in South Africa, there's a culture that just envelopes them with work, domestic work and all of these things. And it really detaches them. It's very difficult to see excellence coming from a young girl artist in South Africa. They have to be resilient or above resilient, and their situations have to be so unique that perhaps their parents are able to afford a nanny and somebody to clean the house. But otherwise, in the general, they either enter the arts late or they don't at all. So schools at least present us, the girl child, with an ability to find a moment to herself. Because I can tell you, in the community, they can't do anything on their own. I can go and say, give me the hall, the community hall, I can do a show. People will be scared to come and try to misbehave in my show because I'm a boy, I'm a man. But there are all these things that prevent young women from excelling, except when you take the help to their homes, to their schools. The home is not a place of rest. It's not a place of inspiration for many young girls in South Africa. It's a place of hard work. It's a place of family responsibility, and I you understand that. But at the same time, the reality is that kid is not going to excel in the arts because arts requires space and time. And she's always in here doing something at home. So when you go to school and when you work to schools, you get to understand why some other things happen in our communities. That's why you don't have this breakout theater producers that are women, unless they come from very stable families and they cannot even travel. Everybody's scared what will happen to them. But boys, when a boy comes and says, I want to go to the States for a year and work and find my way, they are able to do that, but girls, they don't have that. They will always be asked, who's going to look after your grandmother? Who's going to do that? So we've got all those kind of dynamics that going to schools expose to us. And we see it and we appreciate it and we try to work with them.
And that's what people from the outside can't understand, and it's great that you talk about this now. And also there can be the possibility that if girls see this now, that the next generation, that there will be sort of more acceptance for it and more ability for them to do that.
I think it has happened in the corporate world. In the workspace, there's been enough voice to say anybody can do any job and they should end the same. I think we need to be able to do that. I think half of the work is really telling the boys that, no, you should wash your dishes. You should be the one doing dishes. You should be the one washing your clothes. You should be. We are not disturbing society. We're just creating more spaces for girls to also flourish and excel. The conversation is both ways. It's women that have made it convincing other women and mothers of the future to say, let's change the way that we surround the girl child with responsibility in the family. But also we go to the gentleman and say, by the way, this responsibility, you can also take care of them. We should create a schedule in the home and say, Monday this one, Monday, Tuesday. Because you see boys playing in the streets, hanging around at the shops, and who's cleaning for them? Who's cooking for them? They go home at 7, but they expect to find a meal there. It's the girl that did all these things for them in the class, at home, while they were out there. So we need to create that balance. We need to create a sense of fairness where we can tell our boys as well, or no, this is not just the responsibility of the girl child. You also can play a role here. The gender roles have to change, not just for your own survival, but the fact that your mother is not able, your single mother today is not able to provide enough for you, don't you think can be seen in the behavior that you're demonstrating today? She could not get all these opportunities because she was busy washing for your uncle, busy cooking for everyone in the family. That's why your life today is like this. And we need to tell that story. We need to be very firm and very clear with everyone to say that we need to create spaces in the family, in communities for girls to really flourish. It cannot just be the survival of the fittest, and then you have 1 or 2 of them in the CEO board somewhere being judges, and then we say, we are making change. We are not. We are making advances. The real change that's required is down here at the level where the girl needs to understand that I also can write about my community. I also can rehearse a play after school with other girls. I also can present a show and tell people what I think. At the moment, everything is still led by boys because the best opportunities are given to boys because of time that and the lack of responsibilities that they have either way. When a boy does something that has to do with arts, people say, no, he's focused, he's doing something about his future. When a girl does it, it's like she's lazy, she doesn't want to help out at home. Oh, yeah. We need to fix that. We need to fix that. And I think that's a much more urgent thing. If anybody watches this today, anywhere in the world, please just think about the responsibility that your daughters we've put on them and how do they affect their aspirations. I do art and I watch society. That's also the benefit of doing art. You get time to actually watch and observe society. They always say that as an artist, you have to be creative, you have to be observant, and you also have to be a student of mistakes. One of this thing of having to sit and observe society, we do it so well as artists. But the girl cannot do that. The girl cannot do that. She's doing her dishes. She's cleaning the house. She's washing for everyone. She's cooking for everyone. Where is she going to observe the world? Where does she breathe in the excitement of something new happening in a society? So she's at home doing all of these things. And it's important that we recognize now that the future women who will be disadvantaged are the products of our actions today. And we cannot run away from that. So we have this responsibility. And as artists, we see this and we appreciate this. And we've got space to speak about these things and intervene. Let's do that. And we can do it in the arts. I need to hear the voices of the girls at this age, not when they've become the CEO of. I need to hear them today. I need to hear them now saying, I'm drowning now. I'm hopeful now. I'm this now. Because the lessons of now needs to be learned now. Half of the time we always hear them after a while and they cannot inspire anyone. So it's important for us to be able to recognize that our arts are flourishing, they are good, but there are people who are being shut away from them by the culture that we've built around them, especially the girl children. We still have an imbalance of resources. There are people who have money to do shows. There are people who don't. There are people who've got access to venues, and others don't. There are all these things to fix, but it's a journey. And in how it's a conversation that we're not fixing with talking only. We're fixing it with action every day. Like we're building it, and we're planting, and every day we keep planting. And I'm glad to be part of something like that.
That is amazing. And I think also the fact that you recognize and that you say you observe these things, you are in a position to reach the boys also, that they start thinking about this, and also the girls that they have a voice, that they start to write, like you say, write about it or just express how they feel about it. Because I think sometimes girls don't think or they just accept the situation as it is, that they don't think, I can speak about it. I can be unhappy about the situation. I can aspire for something else. So it's wonderful that you go to the schools at that age where you can make them think.
Yeah, I think we've seen through our writing project called the Young Authors Book Initiative, we've seen how these girls really come to the fore in terms of their voices. Once you've enabled them, once you've taken the heckling out of it, once you've taken the shaming, once you've taken the time pressure from them to rush back home to do something, once you've taken the danger of them not knowing how they're going to get home after this, once you've taken all of these things that hamper the girl, you get to see it. You get to see them rise. You get to see them, find this voice. And it's important that we cultivate more of that. It cannot be, South Africa. I don't know, and we need to start asking ourselves that question. The story of South Africa cannot forever be a story of the men.
Yeah,
it's going to limit us. The story of South Africa cannot always be the story of. Even the discussion around our heroes, our history, you get all this marching and bravado and all of that, and then there's these spaces where the real damage was done. I think a huge amount of damage was done to the family, in a sense that certain views were created and reinforced over time that we think is culture, that we think is normal. And it's not. For one child, both your children to have an opportunity and another not to have because of conditions that you've created for them in the same household, that's wrong. And it's important that we start understanding that. You cannot create a better condition for a boy to flourish in the family at the detriment of the girl.
Exactly.
So we need to do that. We need to have cooking lessons for boys, because
Yes.
nobody's born knowing how to cook. It's just that the mother will emphasize the girl to do it, and that emphasis, that point of emphasis, that's where the underdevelopment happens half of the time. We need to remove those emphasis that a girl is better suited for. No, we need to hear, and that will only rise with stories of young women saying, no, by the way, I think this way, I feel this way now, I felt this way yesterday, and I think if I do A, B, C, D, I'll feel this way in the future.
Mm. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Well, I must say, my son, since he started cooking himself, he doesn't want to eat my food anymore. He thinks his food is better than mine.
I don't know whether to say great, or I think great is the wrong word for it. I think great for him. Great for him because he's doing, and I think he needs to understand it, or it's such a normal thing to do.
Exactly.
The fact that it stands out, that's what's wrong about it. Like the fact that we are now talking about it, saying, oh, he's doing this. That's exactly the point. That's what's wrong about it. It's normal. He's gotta eat. He has to eat, this guy. So if he doesn't cook, he will starve. So the intervention cannot be an expectation on another person. The intervention of him eating cannot be an expectation on you as a woman or a sister or his sister. It cannot be that. It's his own survival. I think it's those kinds of things that, like we say, or I don't know how we manage to make them common sense. Or no, even if a boy is hungry, he rather starve than make it on his own, because that's where he is now. Yeah, we cannot. The girl cannot be the one who intervenes towards him not starving all the time, and it's important. And I think that inequality also shows in the arts. Where even when somebody achieves and they say, oh, she's achieved this, and it's like, no, but that's normal. That should be normal. It should not raise hate. It should not, at this point in life, in humanity, it should not be a wow thing that she became the CEO of this. She's not made of anything different. Like, it's not like she's a person who went through the rigors of life like everyone else. She went to school. She did all of these things in addition to all the injustice and limits that maybe she might have seen or experienced. But at the same time, we should start normalizing the excellence of everyone. Because if we don't, if it's not normal for a girl child to rise and say their story, tell their story completely without fear. If we don't normalize that, if it's always some sort of something special, I think we are doing the same things that will harm the arts industry as how they harm the other industries, when important contributions are limited just because we want people to make us tea.
Exactly. And I also think that art should not be seen as just something that's so far above us, that every little thing that you do, that you create, is a form of art. It doesn't have to be, to that level that you are a concert pianist. It can be something you create, or something you bake, or something you make beautiful. And I think that's also important, that we don't forget that is actually art. It's that everyday thing that we do.
It's all the bright little colors that make the world amazing.
Yeah.
They're not, the stars don't shine as big and bright as the moon. But as you see it, if you go to a place where the sky is covered by smog or anything, and you see that, you miss them. In their small innocence and beauty, you miss them. And the arts is that. Art. That's why I always say it's like an orchestra. In the whole, without that one guy coming and saying ding, it doesn't resonate fully. There are pieces of work that you do and then you keep to yourself and say, I'm not going to show this to everyone, but every time you look at them, they make you smile. They're equally important because we are the first audiences of our own art. If you do it, if you play it, if you play it and it makes you happy, that audience of one, you are worth it. We cannot discount our own feelings and our own humanity in the service of others, because then what are we going to serve them if it's not an innate joy that we also experience from what we do? we cannot replicate. That's why it always falters. Art always falters when it becomes a situation where it's almost like a sausage factory. You cannot do that with art. Art is an expression of one moment, one experience of innocence, one experience of joy, one experience of all these things, continuously going. I still have films that makes me smile. Moments when I was shooting a film, when I was back in Johannesburg making films and directing TV shows. There are moments that still make me smile. That still lay the foundation of the work that I do today. And those are important aspects and small needles that kind of like sew my journey together. I cannot overemphasize how art is a place for us. But in a way that it's not a destination. It was almost like we are in it. And then we keep finding different corners of it, different, the different hills and it's a place where we're just in it and we find our joy, our tears and everything in it. And when we share it with people, that's where I think we connect more with humanity. I'm sad for people who cannot express their art because they are waiting for funding or something big. And they've forgotten that small part of, hey, if I do a play and I go perform it at a school, I might inspire 100 kids to be serious about whatever they are thinking about in their lives.
Exactly.
And I think we should transcend the concept of it being an industry to it being part of our lives. We need to transcend the idea that it has to fit in a certain box for it to exist. It exists, and we cannot always, for young people out there doing something and not sure if it's art, don't wait for somebody to come name it. Even things that we don't know, they exist before they are named. So don't wait for it to be named. Keep doing it, keep shining, keep trying, because art involves a lot of trying. And if you achieve, just pull up a couple of other people, so that it's more of us who stand. And when we get to find some sort of prosperity, whether it's in the heart or in the funds or in our minds, from what we do. And
well, you're just a great example of what I believe the power of one, because you do such amazing work, and you, like you say, it's everybody has. You shouldn't wait, and you should just get out there and do it. And that's amazing. But Khuba, this is great what you're doing, but do you have a wish for the future? Do you have a dream?
I have a dream. I do have a dream, and it is a bit of a selfish dream. I've been trying to get a musical overseas for a while. A while is about 7 years from creating them and saying, if this one, I feel if I could take this overseas, it will work. I think for me, that's my own personal dream, because I know I won't go there with just me. I'll be taking about like 10 other people, so it will be an experience that I can bring back home and say, hey, by the way, this is what happened, this is what happened. And it's part of the path. I am scared that the more I hit the ceiling in terms of my own dreams, for people that look up to me, like it takes a lot away from their hope as well. And that's what happens. Like if your greatest inspiration doesn't continue growing, you stop looking at them as an inspiration. So I think the value of my work will grow tremendously if we could create a channel where people can see, really the sky is the limit. I think that I don't want my kids or the kids that I work with, the kids that get inspired by what I do, suddenly see me limited and not able to achieve. I think for me, you cannot be on this path and say, I'm going to inspire people and hope that you have to stop at one point. And because what happens to them? Like inspiration is something else. Like if you're going to be a good example, take it as far as you can. And that's a responsibility that I think I have. That's why I think it has to happen. That I have to, for me to continue saying to people that this is really an authentic experience for you as a person, especially if you come from a community that doesn't have anything like I grew up in. You can still go as far as you need, as you want. Because, like I said, we don't have many examples of that in our country at the moment. Authentic examples that kids can look at and say, hey, look at this guy. He's been going and going and going and going. If my path ends too soon, it's going to harm a lot of work that I do with communities. So next year, the year after next, I think I should have a vessel somehow to take some of the kids that I work with into international space for them to showcase what we have here. And hope that as they showcase, people will be interested to come see more of what we do here at home. We appreciate shows like Bo the Lion King with its South African connection. It does wonders for us. And we want more of that. We want people who can go out there and, and say, oh, there's more from where I came from. So that's my humble prayer every morning.
Yeah, well, I have a wish and a dream to bring a lot of South African artists to Vienna and to make a festival here. But I have no clue where to start and what to do. But I have the dream. So maybe that could be.
I think let's keep talking about it. It will happen.
Yes.
I think if we keep talking about it.
Yeah, I put it out in the universe, and you put it out, and somewhere somebody, it's out there.
Let's put it out there and say, like-minded, passionate, artists. We want to see a big bang because it's important. It's important, and not engineered by anything except our own passion.
Exactly, but I see these festivals.
By any other.
Yeah, these festivals like all these small festivals that's happening in South Africa, and I think it wouldn't be amazing if these wonderful artists from South Africa could come here and we could have art exhibitions, we could have music festivals, we could have musicals being put up. Here, there's a lot of theaters in Vienna. We can invade the city, the South Africans.
Let's invade Vienna. Thank you so much.
And bring the food as well. The food has to come as well. Yeah.
Oh, will you allow me to get off the plane with my traditional stuff from here?
Yes.
I always worry about this.
I want to ask, what is the headset about? Tell me.
It's it's like a crown.
Yeah.
It's made from goat skin. But what you do is that it's really a responsibility. It you get crowned. Every time somebody crowns you, it's towards a certain level of responsibility they expect you to undertake. And I think this was created for young men in the Zulu culture and various other South African cultures to say to them, hey, we are crowning you as somebody who should think of themselves as being important in society and to be a pillar in society in one way or another. It's the kind of thing that we wear with pride. You cannot just be just a person who doesn't value much and get wear it.
Okay.
There's no specific reason why I have it, but somebody said you must have it. It goes well with how you think of the world and what you do, especially in our communities. So this is my way as well of showing an affinity, and a connection to the culture that's given me a home here in KwaZulu-Natal.
And then you, so you have then that responsibility, and you have to what you do, you have to take seriously.
Yes. Yes, I think so. I think you'll find that this will be an amazing thing to bring to Vienna. Most of the clothing and adornment by the Zulu, they come with different, even the colors of their beads and everything, they come with a certain level of proclamation. It's a badge. It's of that symbolizes something. So it's quite it's packed with meaning. These things, and they go towards the ordering of society as well. They're part of the cultural unwritten constitution of who belongs where and how they should behave. So it's an integral part, and it's another way that art and craft in society was used in terms of really shaping the boundaries of behavior, really putting up pedestals of expectations, really bringing together groupings, and yeah, so it's quite an important aspect of I know in the Eastern Cape they have it in beads. You will make it in beads. In the Botswana they will have it almost more shaped like a beret. That those ones that come to the center. But the headwear is quite important.
But are you Zulu or because you grew up near Mafeking?
Mafeking Motswana. Motswana by culture. I was raised by the Botswana. My mother is Xhosa, but I have roots in KZN. I have one of my grandfather. My grandfather was from KZN. But I think it's Zulu. Being Zulu is a big part of being South African. The Zulu culture, I think it has really grown out of the boundaries of just KZN. For example, there are places where Zulu is spoken, but it's not indigenous from there. And you'll find that most of the music that is enjoyed, most of the shows that you see on TV, most of the things that are presented to us are in Zulu. So I think that there are different levels to becoming part of a nation, and we are part of the Zulu nation by being neighbors to it, and by having parts of it brushing off to us. I think those lines are being crossed in fantastic ways. I think only somebody in the next 500 years will see them. No, those lines blurred here and there. We don't see it in the current, because you need an eye of history sometimes to see where lines are formed. And but I think the concept of nation, of Zuluness, has changed so much with all the intermarrying and all of the people that are traveling and all of that. I think that one day somebody's going to say, looking back, if I look at this is what has changed, and this is what this nation looks like now. I think we are like that. We are an ever evolving humanity. I think that there are new cultures emerging from bigger cultures. There are new tribes emerging every day because of certain behavior. And I believe that it's a weird thing. I'm going to study it one day, but I think that the traditional lines of where culture or a nation ends have been blurred so much that I cannot clearly and safely say I'm not Zulu, or I am this. I think in South Africa we've reached that space, and you can look at it with fear. You can look at it with nostalgia and say, no, everything is mixing up, everything's going to disappear. Or you can look at it with hope and say, what does that mean for us as a nation going forward? Does it mean that because over nations have been born and nations have vanished over the years, or humanity has got a way of doing that. And maybe we are building a bigger, stronger Zulu nation that's going to be all of us in South Africa, or we're creating another part of appreciation of their values and customs that's going to shape us into something else. I look at it that way. I think it's going to get me into trouble, but it's okay.
I think it's great to take all the positives and the beautiful from different cultures and, appreciate that. I think that's...
Yeah, and see yourself as one with them. You know, like, I think it's important for us to be able to say that culture, that behavior, that nation, that it's I see myself one with that, with the way they are doing that.
Exactly.
It doesn't take away from who you are. It just expands you. You know, like
Exactly.
if I take on parts of the Zulu, the Zulu customs and that, and add them to mine, it expands me.
Exactly.
And I think that's the beauty of what we have available as cultures. Or else, God would have made one to stay in the moon, one in one star. It's got enough space to have planted us across and never to meet. But because we're meeting, we have to figure out and come with a oneness that doesn't disturb or destroy anything, but builds on the strength of the variety.
Exactly, yeah. Khuba, you've got such beautiful words, such beautiful insights, and it was such a great pleasure to talk to you. I'm so glad that Matt put me in contact with you, really. And I do appreciate all the wonderful work you're doing in the schools. This is also part of what I believe is that art should be taught in schools and that children should have the opportunity. So I do always get so excited if I meet people like you who really do that, you know, really go to schools and inspire and uplift the children.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Ngiyabonga. Thank you so much.
That's a great pleasure.